Welcome to our face reveal and my first book review with a beer. I don't have a beer, 'cause I didn't buy any, so I got some E&J I fished out of the back of the liquor cabinet. Not bad. It's just the E&J brandy. And the book we're talking about today, my intention, by the way, with this was to mostly nonfiction books, but as you can guess, I love historical fiction. And I came across one after reading about Blood Meridian, reading Blood Meridian a couple of times, and it has a peer called Butcher's Crossing, which is a fictional book written by John Williams in the 1960s. And people compare it a lot as a brutally honest look at life on the frontier. I love it for that. It really is a really good look at that. I'm going to be including spoilers. If I right away though, I do recommend the book for two reasons. One, it's pretty well written. It's very, very slow. Not a lot happens. It's very plotting. A lot of discussion goes into the oxen they have in the novel. And it's almost like the oxen themselves. It's plotting, it's plotting, it's plotting. It takes forever to get there, but it gets there. And the second reason I do recommend this book is it's well written and it's very accurate to what life was like. And we're going to go over those accuracies. And another thing, too, those of you who are Blood Meridian fans or fans of Larry McCurdy, Comanche Moon, even Louis L'Amour, anything like that, this book isn't for you. There's very, very little gunfights. There's very little violence, explicit violence. There's almost no gunfights. No, there are no gunfights. The conflict is man against nature. If you like man against nature stories and man versus himself stories, this is definitely a book for you. But now I'll get on to the actual novel itself. The novel itself starts out with a young character named Andrews, who, inspired by Emerson, runs off to the Wild West. Then he gets there. He meets a friend of his father's, who's this grumpy buffalo hide salesman. He's specifically what he does is he buys hides, has them cured, and sends them out west because there's a huge market for it. And this happens in the 1860s, the beginning of the end for Native Americans, the beginning of the end for the West. To provide some context, during the Civil War, the frontier was pushed back, I believe, 200 miles. Now, a lot of that was due to the Lakota, the Cheyenne, the Comanches, the Apaches. I'm sure I'm missing some in there, and if you are Native, and I apologize for not using the proper name because a lot of people don't know this, but many of the names we have today for those tribes are not what they call themselves. For instance, the Comanche call themselves the Nurmanu, which means the people. I do not know what the Apaches call themselves. I don't know and I don't know off the top of my head. But though many of the famous horse warriors of Native American tribes pushed it back very far. And this led to a concerted effort to push back. It's a very controversial time in history, obviously, but it still leads to a good novel. He gets there, he refuses a job from the character whose name is escaping me. But let's call him his father's friend. His father's friend offers him a job. He says, no, I want to go out west. And he warns him, don't talk to these buffalo hunters because hunting buffalo will get in your blood and you'll fall in love with it and you'll be doomed to it. He meets the best hunter in the area named Miller. Miller talks him into funding a dangerous expedition up north. And all this is very accurate. They get down to the types of food they would eat. Coffee, whiskey, flour, beans. That's all, from what I understand, very accurate. Even the having oxen draw their wagon up north to. They're in Kansas. They go up to Colorado, and they get up there, and everyone laughs at them. And on the little expedition is Miller, Andrews, a Skinner named Fred Snyder, and Charlie Hodge, the camp man, who's basically Miller's sidekick. They get up there, and they find a lot of buffalo. And there's great details in there. For instance, you hunters, you know you need a very sharp knife to hunt buffalo. It goes into detail when you take a whetstone, you need to soak it in mineral oil. And then let soak up the mineral oil, then spit on it and work your knife. If your knife isn't sharp, you're just not going to be able to skin an animal. Details like that. Details like when they begin hunting them, they find thousands of them. And they kill thousands, which is something that did happen. They wouldn't eat the meat, barely eat the meat, and just leave the bodies there to rot. And this is what really killed the Plains tribes, was their food source being destroyed. Now, at the time, there was two reasons for this. I'll divert and come back. The people who did this to Native Americans genuinely believed they were doing the right thing, not just for their own society, but for Native Americans themselves. Many of them were Christian. They thought if you're not Christian, you're going to go to hell. They believe that most people all over the world believe their way of life is better than other people's. If our way of life wasn't better, how are we still around? How are we so strong? How are we this without that? The Assyrians did it. The Romans did it. The Zulu did it. And it's a very common thing to see. Getting back to the novel. And he goes into a lot of detail of skinning. Andrews being horrified by how many buffalo they're killing. Miller is so intent on killing all the buffalo that everyone, including his buddy Charlie Hodge, tells him, hey, we don't need to kill over 1,000 buffalo, 2,000, 3,000. We just kill 1,000, take the hides back, and we'll be fine. And Miller insists on staying. And he kills so many buffalo, they have to get his old rifle, his backup rifle out, shoot it, cool it. Excuse me, for those of you who don't shoot guns, they get hot because there's an explosion going off in the barrel. And I know. And unless they have something called a bull barrel, which is meant to disperse the heat, the barrel can heat up very, very quickly and even melt. And if it doesn't, and that melt, it's not going to be an obvious, barrel melting. It's going to be the rifling inside can get hot and deform. So he would put it aside, have the main character taught him how to slowly cool the barrel, clean the weapon, which you want to do after every 3 to 6 shots. And then Miller would shoot his second rifle, shooting buffalo until that got hot. Give it to the main character, take his Sharps rifle back, and he went into a lot of detail about the Sharps rifle. He went into details about how they would make their own ammo, which they would do. Buffalo hunters would make their own ammunition, which is just crazy to me. I grew up around hunting and hiking and everything to do with the outdoors, so any novel like this really appeals to me. But the idea of making your own without modern techniques and modern tools is a terrifying concept. There you go into detail. I have read this before, that trappers and this, where they would actually, what a bullet is, you have that brass casing, right? Gunpowder in, a little bit of wadding, and then the actual bullet is that little piece of lead that comes flying out. Well, they would jam that in and bite the neck of the shell casing around the bullet to keep it in place, which he brings up in the novel. So there's a lot of moments of deep accuracy here. And so Miller just keeps killing and killing and killing and killing and killing. As a result of that, they get stuck there in the snow. And it's kind of the climax of the book in a way, where this horrifying moment where Snyder, who's very much a person of reason, saying, hey, let's just kill some buffalo and get out of here. Let's get paid and go. Whereas Miller, almost under subtext, seems to think that killing is his art and this is his magnum opus. He senses that the the days of buffalo hunting are coming to an end. It's hinted at the beginning of the novel. And this is his magnum opus of violence. The main character becomes inured to the killing, doesn't care about it. It's okay, we're just killing these animals. And they end up killing, I believe, 4,000 buffalo in the book. Now I'm going to stop there in case you want to read the book, because right around there is when it starts to get interesting, when the snows come. And yeah, if you want to read I'd give it a good review. I'd give it, as a book, between 3.5 to 4 stars. 3.5 if you don't like the story. If you like the story, it's a 4. But keep in mind, it's a man versus nature and man versus themselves story, not your traditional Western. Insofar as its historical accuracy, it's right on the nose. Even the pushiness and aggressiveness of people living on the frontier who are there for money, that's pretty accurate. The fact that many towns didn't have wooden buildings, did in fact have canvas tents that that shop owners, barkeeps, those types of people would ply their wares out of, as opposed to what we normally think of when we think of a frontier town. Oftentimes they're called camps, not really towns. I understand that there's a movie made in 2022 starring Nicolas Cage. I saw the beginning of it. I paused it because I didn't want it to influence my review of the book in any way, and I'll probably watch it later. And I might give you a review on that. But my recommendation, it's an accurate historical fiction novel that deserves a read if you're interested in any of the themes or subject matter it covers. Thanks for coming to our first Beer with a Book review. I hope you enjoyed yourself.